Now you're looking at the moment 120 people quarantined at Lackland were released today and headed to the San Antonio International Airport on their way out of the city. These evacuees released are part of the Diamond Princess cruise ship. And after this week's slip up by the CDC, extra precautions were in place taken by the federal agency and the city. Eyewitness News reporter Jordan Foster has more.
After weeks of being away from home, 120 of the Diamond Princess cruise ship evacuees who were quarantined at the Lackland Airforce Base were released. Our cameras were there when they arrived to the San Antonio International Airport. This decision to let them leave coming just a few days after a woman being quarantined was released into the public. A positive test result for the coronavirus was discovered afterwards. Only people who have been symptom-free for the full 14 days were released today. A few passengers told us they were headed back home to places like Chicago and New York. And there were others who weren't going far.
Where you heading to?
Dallas.
Dallas?
Yes.
All 120 were medically cleared by the CDC. In a press release, Mayor Ron Nirenberg says the risk to the public remains low. We watched as airmen transporting the evacuees shook hands and even hugged many of the passengers as they were leaving the bus without any protective mask or gloves. We're told the people who have shown symptoms during the 14-day quarantine period and/or tested positive for the virus will not be released just yet. Jordan Foster, KENS 5, Eyewitness News.